Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Watkins, Glen for round 7 of the ChampCar iRacing series in the MX5 NC of 2011-2012 vintage or so. Well, it's round 7. It's one of our 2-hour races. And what a fantastic venue. I'm David Haynes and I'm joined by Devin Peters. Devin, fond in our hearts, this track, and I don't think we're alone there.
Well, it's an awesome track and a storied one too, so you can't get much better than that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these Mazdas are going to do around here today.
I think one thing they're going to do is quite a lot of slipstreaming. You've got some long full throttle runs around Watkins Glen. Key amongst them is from the exit of turn 1, you are absolutely flat out up through those S's and towards the inner loop, the bus stop, whatever you want to call it there. That is always a very, very long full throttle run with a pretty powerful draft in these kind of cars, and indeed in lots of kind of cars. And then, of course, we are on the sort of full boot layout. I always want to think of it as kind of the sports car layout.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind for me too, of course. The turn off the NASCAR road course and turn on to the real one.
Oh, so controversial so early. Well, qualifying is just about wrapping up. Drivers are on their final flying laps. And I did see the teammates, John Wilding, and who was he working with? And it's got Wilding to the top of the qualifying at the moment, so he might have pole position for today's race. Again, just showing that in these kind of cars, the slipstream can be pretty powerful around here. A good tow can hand you a little bit of time in what's otherwise very, very close lap times.
I think it was Jordan Butler and John Wilding working together to lock up the front row in those Auto Technic sponsored cars.
At the moment, as the clock ticks down, Donovan Bort is not going to get to finish this qualifying lap because in a couple seconds it's going to be declared and we're going to see our drivers line up on the grid for their rolling start. I can't help but notice, Devin, in our qualifying, a second covers about 10 cars here, from John Wilding at the pole all the way through to Justin Hall in 10th. And you definitely get more than a second with the slipstream. So I don't think this is going to be necessarily, at least early on, a race about extreme pace. It's going to be about that racecraft, and it's going to be about placing your car sensibly and keeping it clean for this 120-minute race. And of course, there is going to be at least one pit stop with this race length. So let's run down that grid once more. John Wilding and Jordan Butler are the front row, and they have done very well for themselves there. They've got Mark McCormick, championship leader, and Josh Lucas behind them on row 2. Row number 3, Ian Giebler and Andrew Kosick. Is that correct? Yes, indeed it is. A big swathe of Club Ohio drivers right here. It's Tim Wire, also Club Ohio, just fractionally behind those two, and he shares that row 4 with Shane Cameron. And John Hurley and Justin Hall, row 5. Like I said, just about 1 second to cover this top 10. And then when we look outside of that, you've got Lee Mullerman and Brandon Marshall on row 6. Behind them is Michael Thorne and Patrick Persley, Charles Kowalczyk, David Warden, Aaron Thorpe, Alan Wells, Orlando Harrell, Jared Cubitt, Donovan Bort, and Ben Sandberg and Lance Cameron. So I had my eye on the practice round a week ago, Devin, and can't help but notice Watkins Glen has brought out a couple of new drivers.
Yeah, I'm really excited. John Wilding and Jordan Butler are not names that we've seen a bunch of in this series, but they've come out and made a serious statement with those qualifying times. Mark McCormick has often found himself at the front of some of these rounds looking almost untouchable. And so for the two of them to come out and put themselves, a tenth or 2 tenths ahead, is no small feat. They're lining up, though. Now it looks like they're about to go green.
Truncated formation lap here. They're about to come through the final corner. The teammates have let the pace car get away. They're waiting for the green flag here. And for John Wilding, I think he's gone, and his teammate, John Butler, hasn't quite come along with him. Mark McCormick get his nose in a second after or before the green flag. Wade is not able to get down the inside for the race lead, and they stream too wide in towards turn number 1, and cold ties for Wilding and Butler. They've both gone and missed the apex at turn 1. McCormick just sneaking through into the lead, but this is where that slipstream and that draft comes into effect.
Yeah, these little Mazda power plants humming up the hill as they're jockeying for position, and it's always sketchy through here on the first lap. I'm keeping my eye deep down the field, seeing if anyone goes the wrong way through the S's.
And immediately all drawing up to Mark McCormick, and John Wilding just stays in place. The drivers immediately behind him stay in place too, as they've got to be oh so careful with how aggressive they get launching across these curbs at the inner loop. The lap time is obviously found by getting just a little bit of air, but that can be a risky thing to do for the, I'd say, close to 50 plus laps we're going to have today.
Absolutely. So far, so good. Saw in the back of the pack Michael Thorne looking a little bit sideways as he went through the bus stop, but no one's pointing on it just yet.
So still very early in this race on lap number 1, but Mark McCormick, a big winner so far, and Brandon Marshall as well. So just as I say that, Justin Hall sneaks back by him. Looking like the top 5 starting to get away, and Shane Cameron, who's made a spot or 2 off the start, just got a little bottleneck behind him. Hurley side by side with Josh Lucas, Marshall side by side with Hall.
Now Lucas gives up so much in the braking zone there that Brandon C. Marshall actually pulls out alongside him. It's going to be really key, though, for these guys in 8th, 9th, 10th to find their way up to that lead pack. Otherwise, that pack's going to get together in drafting and drive away. And I think Justin Hall's got that in his mind as he tries to make a move here on Brandon C. Marshall up the inside into turn 11. Too wide through this apex, and this is one of the corners that's going to be policed today. We'll talk more about that later, but something to consider for these drivers.
Yeah, pretty quick flick through there, and they went side by side, and well, Brandon Marshall will hold on to that one for the minute. Still got this just over 1 second gap from your top 5 to those behind, though. So if you are Shane Cameron or John Hurley, you might almost consider using the bumpers just to try to close up that gap to the leaders. And I think they are just on the tail of that slipstream as we are full speed up the hill and the long run to the inner loop this lap.
Yeah, and Mark McCormick, he felt comfortable after the first lap, but this time he's got a little bit more pressure here from John Wilding. Wilding's drafting up, making a move up the inside here. I wonder. No, he decides to tuck it back in, so no challenge for the lead so far.
First and second curb, McCormick very aggressive with them. The car bouncing up and over the curbs and carries on in the lead. Teammates close up behind him, and it's 7 cars in the lead grouping in 2.5 seconds at the moment. Really the kind of racing we're very much used to seeing from this kind of car. You know, if you flick on the TV coverage before an IndyCar race and catch the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup or something, this is how they always seem to race at every track.
Yeah, it's awesome watching those guys go, and I'm excited to see the pointy end of the ChampCar field make their best impression of it today. Our regular viewers will notice a couple names missing out of the top 5 top 10 that we usually tend to see around. Just gotten confirmation on one of them. Zia Lu's heading out to the real Watkins Glen race here shortly, so he's not able to join us today, but he's watching live from the crowd. So shout out to you. Too wide at the front of the field as Jordan Butler's getting shaken down, looks like, by Tim Wire, though. Manages to get a bit of a run and get away with it. And Mark McCormick showing that deadly consistency that we talked about. Wilding's going to have to make a case here to stick with him, otherwise McCormick will just put in these laps like a robot. No mistakes to be had.
Yeah, the consistency, absolutely important. You could be, 3/10, 4/10, half a second slower than someone else and stay with them lap after lap, so long as you don't make a big mistake.
And as I say that, the fastest lap of the day so far goes to Shane Cameron, who crosses the line at that 2:12.1. So a flying qualifying lap. It helps a little bit, I think, when you got two guys side by side breaking a draft in front of you. This lap, though, might not be as fast, especially if the guys ahead decide to stack it up going into the bus stop. Looks like they're all going to fall into line. No, wire takes a little bit wide. Oh, this is going to be a sketchy crossover. But Shane Cameron's got a good run. Looks like he'll try and put it up the inside. Wire squeezes that door shut, though. Real good stuff. Real clean racing. And all these drivers remembering that today, it's not 1 hour, it's 2.
So the key place to be looking right now is that gap between second and third, because Butler just on the fringes of a second away, and those behind him starting to get a little impatient. Ian Giebler, and of course we saw Tim Wire launching across those curves, getting it just a little bit wrong, but managing to keep the car pointing the right way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and all it's going to take, if I'm Wilding in his shoes right now, I'm looking for any move I can make on McCormick, because if you can get him slowed down a little bit, then the rest of the pack can get caught up. One-on-one with him and chasing him as hard as you can, that doesn't feel like a formula for winning. Well, who knows, maybe he's looking for a quiet second place.
The team thing to do might be to just throw it up the inside at the inner loop, potentially. The group behind have just gotten back within that slipstream window, though, so 7 cars in the train there. 8th place has been intriguing me. I think Justin Hall has been pushing Brandon Marshall along. Now, the last lap from this pack didn't see them catching the top 7, but what about this time as they come to the line and it will update? Your leaders all in mid-high 2:12s. Brandon Marshall and Justin Hall 2:13.6, so it didn't work this time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough hill to climb. And if you're Justin Hall in this situation, the wise move is certainly drafting, especially if you don't think that the guy ahead is going to do it. No hand signals in these cars, of course, so you can't wave frantically at the other guy and try and get him to drive with you. But if they don't find a way to rejoin that pack, they're not going to be in the race for the lead anymore. They're going to be in the race for 10th and for about the rest of this race at that. Oh, it's such a good view watching those cars come by to the bus stop. Nothing better than 10 MX-5 Cup cars whizzing by you. All of them hitting the apex some way. And
I want to say recently, we're probably talking almost more than a year ago, they updated those curbs on iRacing, and they also updated the pavement runoff in a couple of places as well. So we are close as we can be to the real Watkins Glen.
Mm-hmm. Shane Cameron making a case up the inside of Tim Wire here for 5th and 6th place. Of course, commentator's curse, I mentioned it, and he drops right back in line. But it does.
Thought about it a couple of times, hasn't he? Because he saw that happen for the exit of the inner loop just a couple laps ago.
Mm-hmm.
These two, himself and John Hurley, remember, they were off this leading pack. They've caught back up. And they might just have a tiny bit more speed than those in front, but it's all about just the pack at the moment here.
Mm-hmm. Got to stick in the draft. That's this phase of the race for sure. Honestly, Wilding and Butler might be onto something if they can actually stick like this. The fuel becomes a concern here. Being able to save a little extra, a little longer, that's always a big difference.
Now, Jungle Devon, we've got, I'd call them pretty mild air temperatures. You might call them pretty warm, but a very hot track as well as we go. So I think one of the things they've got to be thinking about here, not just stay in the slipstream of the car in front, but don't overwork, especially the front tires, because this is a long race. We've got longer stints, longer runs, and the grip will go away from you if you're not careful. Humidity's
barely even a thing today, 33% out there, but Yeah, 27 degrees is getting pretty balmy for us Arctic types. I gotta agree with you though. I just the way these cars are going sideways through the bus stop, I think you can see that there's a pretty low level of adhesion on the track available for these guys right now.
Where I'd been watching some of them as well, though, was through the final 2 corners of the lap, and drivers sort of getting off and then coming back onto the brake pedal, trying to help the car rotate through that really high-speed stuff. And there are some, relatively quick, pretty loaded corners here.
Checking back in with our second pack, I see that Justin Hall's made his way by Brandon Marshall, and Marshall has then been passed by the train by the looks of things. He's found himself now back all the way in 9th place, letting Moon and Josh Lucas by. The two of them trying to track down Hall, who's making his break in his case for that top 8, top 7, I guess.
Yeah, bit of change there, you're right. And another group behind them as well. Thorne, Kowalczyk, etc.
Well, I've been keeping an eye on the leading Canadian in this race, Michael Thorne. He and Pursley and Kowalczyk and Orlando have been having themselves a little bit of a battle. I've seen a few bits of contact, nothing permanent looking so far, but they're definitely enjoying themselves deep in the pack.
Yeah, I'm watching Kowalczyk and Thorne, and again, the front just washed out a little bit for Michael Thorne through the final corner. It's a pretty damn committed corner there, that final corner, with the wall and no runoff right on the outside, and Kowalczyk looks to the inside a little bit too late. They make contact on the way in. Both of them hop across the curb on the exit there. A little clumsy.
Yeah, it was something between a very late bump draft or a very slightly missed braking point. It's hard to tell sometimes, but both of them managed to gather it back together. In no small thanks to that additional runoff that they've added here at the ChampCar iRacing Series. Another shout out to a missing member today. We got Mark Kruger watching from the chat. First race he's missed in almost 2 years with the ChampCar Series, so it's been a pleasure to have him around, and we're looking forward to seeing him back once he comes back from a pretty significant event there in his life. So pretty cool, I guess a good day for him, but it's a shame we don't get to see him out. And we'd love to see all of you out. Of course, ChampCar iRacing Series available to anyone, not just ChampCar members. Come out, get your feet wet, meet the community, and hopefully win yourself some bucks to put towards some racing.
Devin, where should I go if I want to see the schedule and information?
Well, if you go to the ChampCar forums, David, you look right at the top there. It'll say ChampCar iRacing Series, and then you just click on the button. You'll see the schedule. You'll see some info about getting started in iRacing, some info about setting up your PC. If you want to go triple monitors, VR, we can help you out with that.
Now, who did I hear during qualifying? Ian Giebler, definitely a driver racing in the VR with the headset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's going to be my next upgrade. I've enjoyed my triple monitors, but the VR world looks pretty appealing.
Yeah, I've enjoyed every time I've tried VR, but I don't know if I'd want it for my permanent setup. So
yeah,
it's a personal preference thing, and you get options, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, and I heard on the news that Bitcoin's gone and graphics cards are going back to regular prices. So who knows? This affordable hobby might become affordable once again.
I am crying out for a pretty significant upgrade myself, so maybe that's one of the things holding me back. I've noticed this top 7 close up though, because everyone was inside of the train, but it was sort of 3.5 seconds to cover 7 cars. Now they're back down to sort of 1.9 or something. That gap from Hurley in 7th to McCormick in the lead is less, as evidenced by how close Shane Cameron and Hurley got just then.
Yeah, well, and it's just a tiny, Cameron had a little bit of inside overlap on wire ahead, not enough to actually make a pass, danger zone and all that, but he tapped the brakes one extra time at the apex of the corner, and it cost him so much momentum in his car, especially going up the hill, that it gives the guy behind an opportunity right away.
New Top Gun movie, yay or nay? You said Danger Zone.
Oh, nay, because I haven't even watched it. How could I dishonor the memory of the first one with that new stuff?
I mean, I've not seen it. I'm just asking for feedback on the general concept of a potentially long-awaited sequel.
NC Miatas are evidence that it takes at least 2 or 3 tries to remake an original and get it better.
Okay.
Boats! Anyway, they're having a great time racing the boats around here.
The Finger Lakes?
Yeah, makes sense. They all bought their boat trailers down and drafted themselves together. Pretty quiet stuff, though, I gotta say, in this top 7 so far. And our producer is protesting our commentary, but you can't hear him, so it's fine. The battle I'm watching, though, actually at this point is the one between Brandon C. Marshall and Lee Muehlman, because now that Brandon's kind of dropped off the back of Justin and Josh, we're pulling away from them. These two seem to have quite a little thing going on. 2 gray cars driving together up the S's.
And I reckon they've almost been caught a little bit by Michael Thorne, Charles Kowalczyk, and Orlando Harrell, who are just immediately behind them here as well. So Lee Muehlman is closing and just stays in line as they come to the braking markers and then throw it across the curbs. It's that first one, really. They get all 4 tires in the air sometimes off that.
That's such awesome stuff. Looks like a real good time. I got to do this track someday. Definitely a bucket list one for me.
And here's Thorne, Kowalczyk, and Harrell. So 5 cars for the top 10 now. Different lines into the laces of the boot. Thorne might have turned in a little early there, and is that what might wear the front tires?
Well, it's definitely a concern. Like we said, 120 degrees Fahrenheit on the track today, so that sun's beating down on it. And there's a lot of little nuancy things you can do around this track to find some lap time. It's one of those tracks where little things matter more than most. Nice move up the inside there from Muehlman. Takes the spot away from Marshall. And we'll see if they keep swapping themselves back and forth. Ooh, it got sketchy there for a second. Michael Thorne's now right on the back as both of them got a little bit deep into the top of turn 11 there and washed out on their way to the apex.
There's not many drivers having a boring race yet so far today. We've talked about our top 7. We've got a group of 5 all together here. I reckon your loneliest drivers at the moment would be Justin Hall and Joshua Lucas 8th and 9th. Patrick Pursley is 4 seconds off the back of this group we've been watching. It's going to get interesting into turn 1 for this group, though. Marshall missed the apex a little bit. Michael Thorne not able to capitalize on it. And then, of course, it's just all about the throttle at the firewall up through these S's.
It's good stuff. I'm just scrolling through the field and just watching battles like all the way up and down. We got 20th and 19th place. Oh, sorry, 20th and 21st, is that? No, 20th and 19th, just racing with each other. It doesn't matter where you are. You can always find a buddy to race with in the ChampCar iRacing series. Looking at the front of the field, though, things between Shane Cameron and John Hurley are getting a little bit spicy. That time through turn number 6 there, down into the laces of the boots there. Hurley just put just the slightest little tap and sent Shane Cameron all 4 wheels sliding. He had to gather that back up before he could put the power back down. That little bit of battling, though, it's starting to shake loose the back half of this front pack of 7. Gotta be careful.
Yeah, I've just been keeping an eye on the timing, of the rubber band here as Hurley looks to get down the inside, and the amount of time between 6th and 7th here and the lead sort of expands out to 3.2, and then it sometimes will come down to 1.9, and it all stays together for the moment. But there is, expansion and contraction in this group still.
Absolutely. Looks like the lead's getting a little bit spicy too. Mark McCormick weaves all the way down to the pit lane wall as Wilding and Butler are falling behind. And actually, Butler's gone ahead and taken second place. I think, Wilding out qualified him, so now Butler's taking his shot at McCormick this time. Looks like they're going to work together and maybe push each other up the hill a little bit, judging by how fast Butler's getting caught by a teammate. Always a little risky to take that bump draft all the way through 4 there, though. And I gotta say, I'm loving how committed Mark McCormick is right now to breaking the draft.
Doesn't look like it's working though, but
yeah,
maybe it's not about losing, Butler or Wilding. It's about losing Giebler, Cameron, and Hurley.
Yeah, I can see that argument too. It does look like there's a little bit of a split forming right now. We got Giebler dropping off the back of Wire, and Wire himself just barely hanging on to the guys in front. All it takes is one move, though, between those 3. So this is a good spot for it. Wilding and Butler both opting for that sort of tighter line on the exit, a little bit more direct, whereas McCormick opts for the wider line on the exit of that, out of the toe there, trying to roll a little bit more speed.
1.1 seconds from Wilding to Wire and from Wire to Giebler, so that is just sort of at the limit of, are we going to see the top 3 get away? Now, Cameron and Hurley, to my eye, both seem to have a fair bit of pace going on, but they are not getting around Giebler, and they're not helping Giebler catch up. So watch this gap here, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they're getting a little caught up in their own little fight here, and they're kind of losing track of the bigger picture. Giebler's certainly not making it easy on anyone. We'll see if Hurley gives Cameron the push that he desires. It looks like he is. Too wide across the line with Cameron having the momentum. Both of them deep in the braking zone. Cameron's going to roll it around the outside. Manages to roll a little bit more, and Hurley's going to take it all the way out, try and make up spot 2. It looks like the 2 of them will be pushing, but they've lost touch with Tim Wire certainly through that. We'll have to see if they can make it back up.
Yeah, 2 seconds now between 4th place. Tim Wire and Shane Cameron now in 5th. John Hurley going to help out here.
Yeah, we'll see. Hurley and Cameron, no strangers to each other. They've been on track in the same area for a couple of years now. And Cameron, no fear as he takes the apex of the bus stop there. That was good stuff. Almost takes out the camera.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Just enough curb will help you rotate the car. Too much will help you rotate the car too much. And sometimes they get airborne and the front tires slide when they land, and they'll push wide of maybe the 3rd apex and carry the speed into the outer loop. So there's a balancing act there.
Yeah, that's what you definitely want, though, is the lead guy to really nail it through there if you're the follower, because then you can catch back up through the laces and through the toe and kind of give your push on the way out. Working so far. McCormick's still dragging him left and right ahead, weaving back and forth across the track on pretty much every straightaway.
Yeah, that's a 2.5 seconds Wire to Cameron here, so it's
Wire makes it too wide.
Not quite working.
Wire's too wide around the outside of Wilding going into 10. Doesn't work this time. Sorry, that's 11.
Certainly not. Interesting to watch though. Down to 2 seconds. Wire to Cameron. Really needs to be 1.2 when they come out of turn 1, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's really what you need is that 1.2, 1.3. You're just starting to sniff the draft. But yeah, looks like the leaders have succeeded in breaking things up.
Well, McCormick got all the way down to the pit wall again and then tracked back out for the regular line through turn number 1. So, again, I don't think that's shaking Butler or Wilding, but it might have played a role in seeing Shane Cameron and John Hurley and Ian Giebler drop off.
Now, I will say that Hurley and Cameron are sticking a lot closer together than the guys ahead are, so I gotta think they're gonna be making up some time by the end of the hill here.
Yeah,
I thought, oh, Cameron, I thought he was gonna hit the wall that time. Slides it. That was a good catch, though.
That was something.
Yeah, we almost might need a replay on that one. That was pretty. Inch is perfect, but I think also Inch is wrong judging by how the next two apexes went.
Yeah, I'm not confident he gained much time from that.
Looking back down the field a little bit further, it looks like Lee Muehlman and Michael Thorne are back to their battling ways. Brandon C. Marshall again has been dropped. It's been a bit of an unfortunate go for him. He made up some ground off the start and he's dropped back to about where he qualified. Muehlman and Thorne, on the other hand, they're pulling away from him and racing with each other. My favorite Canadian being very polite in the braking zone. He gives a lot of room to Muehlman there. Showing him a little bit of nose through 9. And this time we'll see if he can make anything happen on the way onto the straightaway there. Definitely staying in contact, but I'm not sure he's got quite the run that he needs off that last turn. You got to really run it out to the wall if you want to retain enough momentum. Can't overbrake it at all.
Ooh, just a bit of a touch there in turn 1.
Yeah, he definitely opened the door that time. But hey, you push the guy out a little extra ahead of you, you can chase him all the way down up the hill. He's going to have a nice big draft all the way as they go there. Big move up the inside here. Scary spot into that bus stop. Very straight line for Michael Thorne. Oh, and he tries out the 4-wheel drift in the middle. Manages to gather it up, though. And that takes the spot away from Muehlman. Muehlman opts for the very wide line. Kind of gets out into the dirty stuff. Going to have to lose a little bit more. And that's broken them up a little bit.
It's that second curb, isn't it? We saw Shane Cameron catch a lot of that second curb of the inner loop and get pitched sideways, and the same happened there. Thorne, as he had a very shallow entry to the first apex, took him across a lot of the second curb.
Now, folks who are out on the or who race this track in the simulator regularly will notice that these guys are paying little heed to some of the off tracks that you usually accumulate for going very wide in turns 1 and turns 10. Of course, the ChampCar iRacing series officiated internally, and we handle all that. So, well, I guess we don't, but it gets handled anyway. So these guys don't have to worry about an incident limit in today's race, and so they're just racing wherever it's fastest. And we see Shane Cameron trying to get a sip of that draft ahead of him. Maybe fastest for him is right by the pit wall today.
Yeah, so McCormick does his regular. Jordan Butler, 3/4 of a second off McCormick, and then John Wilding, Tim Wire, pretty quick fire, and Cameron has been catching not only the cars in front, but also getting a little bit of time back to McCormick as well.
Yeah, critically. And I think as the lead four are kind of accordioning back together, they're having to give up a little bit because they're so close together. And it's giving Cameron the opportunity, especially with these big runs to the bus stop, and he uses all of it again, that he's managing to make up a little bit of time. But this is a really big effort, really putting the back half of the top 7 on his shoulders here is Shane.
Yeah, he's drawn it down from 4.5 seconds away from the lead to 2.5 seconds away from the lead, and also now just 1.2 seconds away from wire. So Shane Cameron knows the job at hand is catch that slipstream, catch the lead group again, and he's done it pretty well so far.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, I haven't watched Shane race for a pretty long while now, and I think I've seen him come from about a 1200 rated sort of iRacing rookie to a guy who can hang with some real fast drivers in the iRacing series, and north of 2300 iRating now. So it shows both in the sim and what he's putting on track in front of us today.
What's McCormick going to do on the pit straight this time? He's got Butler a little bit closer than last time around, and he is going to take him towards the pit wall as they cross the start-finish line, and then back towards the racing line.
And critically, Cameron crosses the line that time, just barely over 1.2 seconds behind the Tim Wire in that last car lead pack. So if he got turn number 1 right, he ought to be getting some of the draft, and it looks like he might be. I think that gap's closing up.
Now, Wire also got a pretty good run, how close he is to Butler and Wilding at the moment. So that second, third, and fourth, got to be careful as they approach the inner loop here. Teammates almost touch. For Cameron, mission accomplished, I think. He has rejoined the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's brought John Hurley along with him, but critically, Ian Giebler has fallen a bit back of that group and hasn't been able to keep up with this sudden turn of pace that Cameron's found. And he's going to have to do some weightlifting of his own if he wants to rejoin this battle. Otherwise, he's going to find himself in no man's land with Justin Hall and Josh Lucas kind of finding their way up behind him.
Trying to see if I can pinpoint exactly where Giebler might have lost out a little bit of that time, and just wasn't a solid run through turn number 1.
Yeah, and then you lose a little bit there, you lose a little bit all the way up, and it's a long run. 3 wide looks like at the front though for a moment, as they managed to find a way back to single file. A little bit of team driving there going on. I think Wire being held off by the likes of John Wilding as Jordan Butler took a bit of a creative line through turn 8 there. Run it real wide.
So now the gap is between first and second, not fourth and fifth.
Now McCormick staged a little breakaway, but he hasn't given it up just yet, and these guys are going to have to keep their eyes forward. If they're not careful, McCormick might get his wish and get that little breakaway he's been kind of striving for the whole time.
Wire looking down the inside of Wilding in turn number 1.
And Wire says, I don't want to be the reason that those other guys get up here. Come on, let me by. Ooh, and no love from the teammate. Butler takes it to the regular apex, focused on McCormick. Trusting his teammate behind to figure it out. Wire's going to get squeezed though here. If Cameron makes his way up to Butler's bumper, he might give him a push. Instead, it looks like they're going to go 3 wide down the back straight, or down the straight here. Oh, and they're real close. A little bit of touching back and forth. 3 wide into the bus stop doesn't work, and Tim Wire backs out. Shane Cameron takes it the deepest, and he's going to take 2 through 1.
Yeah, he does. They went 2 wide through turn number 1. That slowed up both of them, and Shane Cameron very gutsy compared to the others around, and goes round the outside 3 wide to pick up some spots here, and he's hopefully going to continue surging towards the leaders. They touch a little bit there between Wilding and Wire. This has gotten just a bit touchy between these two.
Oh, and it's tough stuff for Wire there. Being on the outside of that corner, you lose some of the camber in the laces there. Oh, and then Hurley comes in, slams the door shut. 4th place to 7th place, 1 lap, and Wire takes it way deep. Oh, and compounds the problem. That sucks. That's going to be a hard thing to recover from in that race. Ooh, and that car is driving a little bit worse for wear as he limps it around. Now, luckily, we're almost 40 minutes into this race. I'm not sure that the pits window is open for a 1-stopper, but I think that he ought to be able to do a 2-stopper. Oh, and more carnage up front. John Wilding now goes around to turn number 9. Things got a little bit impatient, and John Hurley looking his nose up the inside. Looked like Wilding was going to give him room, and then Wilding kind of closed the door a little bit, overcorrects, and ends up facing the wrong way on the exit. That's a real tough spot to find yourself because it's so blind at that point.
So contact and spills in the lead group.
And McCormick is fist pumping with his rear view mirror in front of him. He's got a 1-second gap to Jordan Butler. He's almost shaking him loose, and no one really to speak of that can make a challenge on him if he manages to break that draft. The Wire, sure enough, he takes it to the lane this time. Car looks like it's driving pretty funky.
He'll be thankfully found tyres, not straight onto the Armco though, around here, but still.
Now, in the ChampCar iRacing Series, of course, we do give the drivers 1 fast repair, so this will not be the end of Tim Wire's race, but it might very well be the end of his contention for the top 10, depending on how things shake out through the pit stops today. We will get an interesting bit of data, though, from him, taking a look at what he does with his tires. It'll be interesting to see what folks decide to do. I got to imagine that there's some lap time in fresh tires, but I wonder if it'll be enough to offset it.
It's a big fuel drop today, Devon. So I think anyone who doesn't take 4 tyres will come to regret it. And I don't think the track's going to cool off in any hurry. It's a local time of 2:50 p.m. Sun's still beating down on it. It's not like it's going to cool off too much between now and the end.
I'll give you that. He filled it full of fuel, that's for sure. These are going to be very long pit stops if that's the norm. Well, our lead group has gone back to doing a little bit of single file chasey. So in the meantime, I'm kind of looking back into the field again, checking in on my favorite Canadian, Michael Thorne. And interestingly enough, it looks like Thorne and Muleman have continued to battle, and somehow Orlando Harrell, who most recently when I checked in, he was battling for 13th place with Charles Kowalczyk, has managed to find himself around all these guys while leaving Kowalczyk behind him. So things have gotten a little bit interesting while we looked away over there. Ooh,
That's that final corner, remember? The wall is right on the exit. You carry a little bit too much speed, it starts washing out and you can get in trouble pretty quickly. Michael Thorne recognised it, but it's absolutely butchered his run off that corner.
He's done turn 1 a lot better than Muleman has, though. Might be able to get this back going up the hill. It almost looked to me like he missed a gear, which always a possibility when you're out here. I'd say the one thing that I haven't found yet is a set of sim pedals that really, and a sim shifter that really does the gated kind of clunk of a shifter very well in the simulator.
Bumper to bumper towards the inner loop, and Thorne doesn't get around Muleman. Hold on, 10th and 11th for the minute. This car does have the, classic style gearbox arrangement, not like the ND that replaced it got a sequential gearbox and pit lane speed limiter and all that fancy stuff.
Yeah, man, I thought this was an entry-level racing series. What the heck? Give it a few years, we'll all be racing no-speed EVs, you know? Ooh, Michael Thorne getting a little feisty. Puts 2 tires over that inside curb and tries to make it work. Leaves plenty of space, though, on the outside, though, and Nealman's going to pull away again. Interestingly enough, even with all this battling, it doesn't seem like they're losing a ton of time to Orlando ahead. You can see him just poking out a shot now and then in that white car. Someone who has managed to lose the guy behind him, though, is Justin Hall, checking in from 6th place. And Justin Hall starting on the grid in 10th. He has been chasing down Ian Giebler, but Giebler is actually going to be our first scheduled stop, I gotta think, as we see him peel off into the pit lane and Justin Hall goes by. So Giebler managed, what, 17 laps on the first set? I guess 18 laps as he comes to his box?
Yeah, and John Wilding pits too, so I wonder how many others we might see.
And if I'm Wilding and I'm expected to make 2 stops, I might try and manipulate the fuel load so that I come out and I've got Giebler, with me. Maybe we can do a little bit of drafty.
Or that was just a drive-through? No?
No, Wilding was the #1 qualifier, so he has the last box on the pit lane. Looked a bit like a late decision, I gotta say.
A few others there, Aaron Thorpe, Ben Sandberg. So what will our leaders do? Mark McCormick is out to a lead of almost 2 seconds now from Shane Cameron, Jordan Butler, and John Hurley are all together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if I'm the group chaser, I might start to think about calling it early and seeing if I can do a bit of an undercut. Maybe if we're getting close to the end of the fuel, sneak away before McCormick can react. And maybe find some sort of way to break apart that gap. You're battling though. See Giebler coming back onto the track. 7th place on the graphics, but running 15th by the looks of things after the pit stop. And we got who's that? Wilding out behind him. Wilding's lost a bit relative to Giebler. About the same gap as what they had going in, though. Both had very similar times on the pit line. Wire actually a little bit faster overall. Butler and Shane Cameron and John Hurley just had a bit of an incident going into turn 1 there. It looked like, to me, Hurley just kind of got the braking all wrong under the power of that draft and slid it right into the left rear of Butler's car there. Good evasive action, but definitely cost some speed there for Hurley. Threw them under a blanket.
Yeah, I think that was all on Hurley there, really. Busy again on the pit lane, though, because Josh Lucas, Justin Hall, Michael Thornley, Millman, Charles Kowalczyk, Brandon Marshall all pitting in. So now we're left with just a very few drivers that haven't stopped yet. And it's your leader, Mark McCormick. The next group of 3 that we were just watching get a bit too exciting through turn number 1. Also, Orlando Harrell and Alan Wells haven't stopped yet. Did see a bit of variation out of the times from the group that pitted last lap around, from 58 seconds for Giebler down to about 44 for David Warden. And Justin Hall, 34 seconds. So, is that 2-stop territory? What's going on there?
Gotta wonder. I mean, yeah, maybe you just take only enough fuel to cover the tires in the first one, and then maybe you go, shortstop or left sides only or something like that on the second one. I don't know. There's some choices to be made there for sure. I think among our lead group. See Marshall get rolling and Thorne now. Those guys were a little behind, but they weren't way behind Justin Hall before he went into the box. Might be a bit of a blinder being played on the strategy though. There, I'm really curious to see how that
It
works
is the
out.
leader. McCormick, of course, leading the way all race long so far. No slipstreaming for him. What about those behind? Hurley stays out, but Cameron and Butler follow him in. So the difference in pit stop times potentially here between these three, I think, is very significant.
Now, I will note, I haven't raced here in a bit, so I don't know how they're enforcing the pit lane entry, but Cameron and Butler both kept 2 tires under the yellow line, and McCormick went all 4 past the yellow line. So I'm not sure if that gets flagged as an unsafe pit entry around here.
It's very, very track-to-track specific. You can do just about anything here. So I don't think any problems there for McCormick. But at, for example, the Red Bull Ring, it is incredibly strictly enforced. Mm-hmm. So you kind of wish there was a little more consistency around that. 4 tires for McCormick. And he's away now. 35 seconds. So very similar to what Justin Hall did. Just a little longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, interestingly, it looks like Butler's opting for the longer fuel. So he goes fairly deep there in terms of fuel load. So it'll be interesting to see who's played it right today. And Justin Hall has officially overtaken Jordan Butler with that short pit stop. So yeah, there's something there. Meanwhile, Shane Cameron is taking the longest stop of looks like just about anyone.
Yeah, I can't honestly tell you what's going on with some of these pit stop times. Pretty significant variation there. You've got this group like McCormick and Justin Hall, 35 and 34 seconds of service. You've got some sort of in between, 48 seconds for Jordan Butler, 43 for Josh Lucas, and then you've got your 50-second pit stops there with Shane Cameron and Ian Giebler and John Wilding. Now, John Hurley, who was the very last driver to pit, is in now. What group is he going to be?
That'll be interesting to see. I'm very excited to see which one of these guys got it right. Because I think there's some complicated napkin math going on.
Complicated math on simple napkins or complicated napkins with simple math?
Whichever one figures that out, I think, is going to be our winner today. Got John Hurley, those stopped, taking 2, taking more. And
does this look like it could be fronts only on Hurley? I kind of got that impression from McCormick as well.
On his notch note here.
How's the thing going to behave when he leaves the pit lane after 35 seconds of service? So near identical to McCormick.
Yeah, McCormick, Hurley, Hall. Now running, I think, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it'll be actually Hall and Hurley kind of blending together. So those 3 have played it one way, and about the rest of the top 10 has kind of played it a longer way. Andrew Kosick, on the other hand, has done like almost no fuel, it seems like.
He hasn't actually really stopped yet, I don't think. I think he took a fast repair early.
Okay, that explains. In that most mint car there. Shining up the hill. So damage is good reason to stop early. Ian Giebler, I thought he was battling there for a second with Tim Wire, who's behind it. That's actually Joshua Lucas, who's behind him in the other yellow car. But also for position there. So Cameron, Giebler, and Lucas have to be pretty heavy on fuel relative to the guys at the front. And that does impact the lap times in Miatas.
Yep. Smaller the car, generally the more sensitive it is to the fuel load.
And the three of them look to have safely, what is that, a 10, 15 second gap, 30-second gap all the way to Shane Cameron now? Looks like 10 and 20 seconds. 10 to Butler and then 20 to Cameron. And based on my coloring, I think that Cameron and Giebler might be, well, they're definitely longer. I wonder if they're fueled to the end. I mean, that's a possibility too.
Stick around and find out. I've been trying to watch some of the body language from our leading cars. Ooh. Yeah.
And what have you seen?
Well, some pretty quick lap times from Mark McCormick, for example. So he goes and sets the fastest lap of the race. The fastest 0x lap of the race, it really has to be said. But still, that's really quick. So I was looking, were they at all behaving like they were a little tail happy or squirrely? No, that looks pretty well balanced and pretty strong from McCormick, Hurley, and Hall.
Yeah, he's just driving around this track like it's a mission, like, going all the way out wide into the outer loop there before turning back in and then taking that super late apex, getting a real nice run down to the chute. Like, this is textbook, folks. If you want to learn how to drive this track right, this guy's got it. Gets that late sort of exit. Keeps it up real high on the banking in the toe. Runs that a little extra lap time. And then again, that sort of late-ish apex here keeps it on the track. He's definitely getting the most out of these tires.
This could be another 211.
Mm-hmm. Sectors look good for it.
Final corner and across just a little bit of the curbing, but not too close to the wall. What's it going to be at the line? Oh, it's backed it off fully half a second there, a 2:12.5, which
would have been good.
Close, would be pretty close to like the third fastest lap of the race so far.
Yeah, I was going to say good for third in qualifying with no draft.
First flying laps out of, some of the first flying laps out of John Hurley and Justin Hall and some of those other pit stoppers as well there now. So Hurley matching that, 11 seconds off the lead with a 2:12.5. Shane Cameron, 2:13.4. So that's just going to be presumably a bit more fuel, isn't it?
I think so. I'm watching actually Tim Wire as he just put a move on Josh Lucas into turn one there. Yellow car on yellow car. Two of them had been battling for a few corners leading up to it. Looks like Wire's going to take that away, but Josh now goes in the catbird seat with that big draft coming up the hill. He might be able to say something about it by the time they get to the bus stop.
Absolutely, Lucas closing in, but then they get towards the braking zone and he's not quite close enough.
That classic honeybeebase.com livery there. Seems like Tim Meyer manages to find one of those for every single car that he races. Josh Lucas just kind of washes out in the middle of the corner there. Not sure what he did on tires relative to Wire.
That's just the real big question mark all up and down, isn't it? Have the likes of McCormick, Hurley and Hall fueled to get to the end? Did they take four tires? Well, there's some more to be answered, but I think something is to be said for a two-stop, potentially, given how affected by a full tank of fuel these cars are and how much we saw the tyres drop off in 15 laps, and then everyone pitted and there's still 30 to go. I think, for example, McCormick went from doing high 213s down to a 211.9 when he got new tyres. There is a performance gain there. Then you've got that F1 in the 2000s style, carry less fuel thing. There's something to be said potentially for a two-stop, even if a one-stop is theoretically possible.
Yeah, well, and a factor for Mark, I mean, last time by, that caramel layer on the outside of the tires, seemed to be going away. 2:12.9 that time by. So still quick, but not otherworldly like that first lap was. Also a factor for him now is going to be some of the lap traffic, because you go that short and you make up a lot of ground on some of the lappers that went one stop, full tank of fuel. He's going to be passing Mike Thorne. He's going to be coming up on Alan Wells, Donovan Bort. He'll be putting him a lap down in the near future. And those wondering, Michael Thorne looking a little bit out of position. He's gone and given himself a speeding penalty. Forgot there was pit lane or no pit lane speed limiter in these Stone Age NC Miatas, Yeah. Shane Cameron.
Kosick pitted very early, so now he's got Shane Cameron up behind him. Last lap for Cameron looked pretty decent, but he might have picked up just a little bit of slipstream off Andrew Kosick. Now he's closed that gap and he's potentially getting held up just a little bit here.
He's definitely able to save some fuel if he wants to. We'll see where he decides to try and make his move.
And there's going to be a tyre life difference here of 18 laps, isn't there?
Yeah, that really early stop there from Kosick. Short fuel, and I think just fresh tires. I gotta think that we missed him finding a wall somewhere.
Wonder if Shane Cameron is just going to wait for the inner loop here. He lifts off the throttle pretty early into turn one. Make sure he gets down to that apex. It's just the right distance back to build up the speed and probably get by. His dad, Lance Cameron, still running.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize the dad had joined us for this race. Of course, even if you're not competing with the pointy end of the field, there's always a reason to race at the ChampCar iRacing Series. The top half, all those who complete at least 50% of the race distance for 12 races out of the year are entered to win $1,500 champ dollars towards race entries or whatever you might need. So always a good incentive to come out and put in some laps, even if you're not having the most competitive race of the year.
Shane Cameron gets around as Kosick car can't match the grip with the tyre differential, and they got to the outer loop there, and Shane Cameron got his nose down the inside there, took the shorter run. He's now up into fifth, 34 seconds behind the lead and 22 behind John Hurley, who he spent so much time with in the first stint of this race. After that big round of pit stops that we had, of course, everyone has made one pit stop now. You see a few groups starting to link back up again.
Yeah. I'm watching John Wilding and Orlando Harrell for 10th and 11th place. Wilding, of course, spent much of the race up at the front. He qualified on pole. But all of a sudden, it seems like he's struggling a bit to find his rhythm again after that incident. Orlando qualified 19th, nearly at the back end of the grid, and he's been tracking John down for the last 2-3 laps. thought he was going to have a run at him going into 8th there, but he definitely being more aggressive into the last turn. We'll see if that translates into a run. Orlando's had a few nice moves so far this race. Drops out of the draft a little bit early. Doesn't seem that committed to making the move at turn 1. Makes sure that he gets it down to the apex though and gets that real good drive off. And he's tucking in to go up the S's. And it looks like Wilding's giving him a lot of room. I'm looking at the front of Wilding's car and I'm not seeing any particular damage. Is there a reason we think that he's this far off the pace? Maybe he's got visions of the one-stopper?
I'm not sure. I didn't note down the tires off either of these, but it just looks like Harrell is a little bit quicker at the minute.
Yeah, it just seems to be driving away from him. I would have thought that Wilding would have taken a faster pair at the stop. You know, so you'd think that his pit strategy would have been more or less unaffected. Maybe he's just more comfortable in the draft, though. We'll have to see if he's able to keep up now.
So let's get a little theoretical here, Devon. If we say that a 35-second stop is a two-stopper, are that group of drivers quick enough and building out enough margin? And what? Shane Cameron's definitely getting to the end from 5th, 33 seconds behind the lead. How do you see that potentially playing out?
It's a really good question. If we assume that they need 20 seconds of stop time, and we add on the 30 seconds of drive time, to me, that puts them out closer to Tim Wire and Josh Lucas in 8th and 9th, 46, 47 seconds back. So if that's the reality, then Cameron has got to be the odds-on favorite to win this thing at this point. But if Cameron is going to have to do a splash and dash, like literally any amount that requires him to go down pit lane, then he's in big trouble because he is not going to have made up enough on track, I think, to have justified the very long first stop, because you won't have time for tires when you're getting the splash. So you're kind of giving up the advantage, you know?
Yep. That's kind of how I see that as well. If everyone's thinking to stop, then I can see the logic to not brimming the car and then going for a splash, but trying to take two equal chunks there.
I'm enjoying how this race is going in the mid-pack. It looks like Orlando and John have managed to keep it stuck together for 10th and 11th. I'm not sure there's anything unfolding right away there, but I've actually been also watching Cubit and Pursley, and now Cubit and Kowalczyk. It looks like Cubit down in 17th place has done something to knock the front end off that car, and he's struggling a bit for pace now, and Kowalczyk is getting real close behind him. They're going to be going too wide in the laces this time, and Cubit has been blinking off and on, kind of disappearing from the track. Of course, that always happens when your connection's a little bit unstable, so looks like he might even be giving a little bit of leeway to some of these guys with how bad his internet's behaving right now. Speaking of somewhat exciting battles, Brandon C. Marshall and Lee Muehlman in 12th and 13th are also having a little go at her. These two cars in gray have been near each other all race, you know, showing very similar paces.
And pit lane for for Marshall, though.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise. He did run 20 laps the first time around, so maybe he's decided, hey, I can, like, the pit window's open to the end, so now I can fuel up to there. Just stop him as early as possible. Works a little bit better when there's yellow flags, you know.
We might be thinking about that damage as well, though. There's quite a fair chunk of damage all around on Brandon Marshall, but I don't think he's got a fast repair left. So the nose, the front right, the rear bumper, the rear right.
I wonder if he's slid it off into a wall somewhere I've missed. Wilding and Harrell continue on, though, in 10th and 11th place. The two of them been stuck like glue ever since Wilding pulled out behind Orlando. And, of course, Wilding, if we think that Wilding could actually get to the end, Orlando does have the kind of pace that if Wilding could keep up with him and draft him and save a little bit of extra fuel, you know, this is the kind of situation you want to find yourself in. Cameron, who's been kind of all alone and having to battle a little bit, not quite as good a situation, you got to think. Though he does, of course, have the advantage of 20 seconds of track position.
Well, then remember, John Hurley went the longest of anyone from the drop of the green flag, and he had quite a bit of a shorter stop. So if anyone was in, you know, he could have been in the best field position, and he's taken a very similar stop to McCormick and Hall. So I wonder if there's something in that.
Yeah, it could be. And I believe we always run, you know, a warm-up heat before the real deal. So we had a practice race last week, and you got to wonder how many of these guys were out testing stuff out last week too, to see if they could you know, get the solve on this fuel thing. John Hurley makes a nice move up the inside there as he passes Donovan Bork and puts him a lap down. I guess also puts him a lap down because, of course, Mark McCormick's done that already, and done that for Michael Thorne, who's Hurley's next target up the road as well.
Mark McCormick is continuing to be the fastest driver on track, but Justin Hall might be catching Hurley for second here. They've got a bit of traffic, and through it now. Yeah,
that'll have shaken Justin Hall up a little bit, but it won't have dimmed his hopes. He's been consistently faster than Hurley ahead for the last few laps, scratching a few tenths off here and there.
Four tenths this lap, and now there's no cars in between them, so a 2:13.2 for McCormick, 13.9 for Hurley, and 13.5 for Justin Hall.
Yeah, Hall got a good run through one. It wasn't quite enough to bridge the gap, but got to think that that's coming shortly here. Seconds down that straightaway. Ooh, and Donovan Bork tried out Justin Hall's line and took it. Well, he managed to get a rejoin the track safely, so that's what counts. There's an infamous incident in one of our cars where a driver didn't report an off track, but we learned about it after the race because he went and bought the pictures from the photographer. And she included the one of him sideways and off track. The car owner found out about it later. Anyway, Bork might have had a situation like that on his hands.
There you go. Was it a good picture, though?
Sweet picture. Like,
Was worth telling on yourself.
dirt like 7-8 feet up in the air, front tires spinning, the whole car sideways. Not proud of how you got there, but made for a good memory. Speaking of, Ian Giebler remembers when he was running in the top group there, but he's currently running in 7th place, and he's actually starting to have to worry about his rearview mirror as Wire and Lucas and those 2 yellow cars have been kind of chasing him down. Never really get rid of the Bumblebee. I think this is one of those situations. Ian Giebler hasn't had the pace that we saw early in the race over the last section of it. Track temps actually dropping pretty significantly as we're seeing some cloud cover overhead through this phase of the race. Track's down to 109 Fahrenheit after starting 122 on the day.
It's good you could almost go around walking barefoot on that pavement now.
Mm-hmm. Now, we'll note Andrew Cossack's pit himself.
Yep.
And so he's doing his sort of different strategy, but he managed to stretch that all the way out to 28 laps. So if that's any indication of how long you can go on one fuel, like full tank, not starting tank, but full tank, that might be a good indication for us that guys outside of that 28 lap window, which should be most of them, are going to need another stop. I'd say that maybe Pursley and Cubitt are the only 2 that are kind of close to that window.
Tires are done for Cossack and it's still fueling. So he's out to about 30 seconds now. And he took about 15 seconds of fuel right at the start.
Brimmed it, I gotta think.
Yeah, probably. This is still going here.
I mean, maybe they're interesting. So maybe there is enough fuel needed that you can actually justify long first stop, short second stop, and still have an advantage at the far end of this. Anyway,
intriguing.
Speaking of racing, both in the pit lane and on the track, John Hurley has finally allowed Justin Hall to crack into that draft, and Justin Hall is beating up the ground between them pretty quickly, we said. And a little bit of lap traffic ahead for John Hurley too that he'll have to deal with in the next few laps. So things are about to get spicy on the podium here, I gotta think. Both these drivers having great races so far, both up 7 since they started side by side on the grid in 9th and 10th place.
And it was all about that opening phase of the race, wasn't it? Where your top 7 were on the run, and they were the haves, and everyone else was the have-nots. Now we've had a round of pit stops, and these 2 are working their way back into a little bit of that contention. Big closing speed for Justin Hall, but he stays put.
Yeah, the bus stop's a risky place to make a move, There's still an hour, still 45 minutes left in this race. It's flying. But still got some time left in this race. Not time for desperation yet. And Wire's going to catch Giebler this time up the S's as we continue to watch Justin Hall and Hurley.
All forming back up again in various places throughout the field. So it is 3 together for position here with Giebler and Wire and Lucas.
Mm-hmm. I got the third mic going here, apparently.
So Tim Wire still catching Ian Giebler pretty quickly here. Joshua Lucas right with them still as well.
Yeah, Lucas has really had to scrabble and fight to hold on to Tim Wire there. Wire has never been quite able to put enough pace into it to break that draft to Lucas. So if you're Lucas, I got to think you're hoping that this little battle opens the door for you. Real tight stuff through there.
And all different stops from these three as well. So 58 seconds from Giebler, 52 seconds from Wire, 43 from Josh Lucas.
We need to check back in on Hurley and Hall, because Hall just had to take some serious evasive action on the bottom of the S's there. I'm not sure exactly what kind of run Hurley got, but it wasn't something positive. Hall has got such a run, he's going to take him too wide into the bus stop this time. So all my stuff I said about desperation out the window. Hurley decides he doesn't want to go too wide through the bus stop at this point, and he lets Justin have it as they go into the outer loop, and locks that place down. That's Justin. And interesting that even with that battling, Hall has managed to be quicker than McCormick over the last few. So 15 seconds, back, but he's averaging faster. Oh, and Hurley, second time in this race, seems to just have a little target fixation, kind of locks onto that bumper, gets caught unawares by how fast he's going in the draft, and misses his braking point. Puts a bit of a spoiler on that one. Checking back in with Giebler, Wire, and Lucas, or should I say Wire, Giebler, and Lucas, because Wire's managed to make the move and steal 6th place away there from Giebler.
There should be a pretty noticeable weight difference here between Giebler and Lucas as well, so I wonder if Lucas will look to get around shortly as well and try to keep following Tim Wire.
That is
the second round of stops, though, it's going to be longer for Lucas to get to the end.
Mm-hmm. Orlando and Wilding still stuck nose to tail as well. So if Wilding is planning that long fuel run, he's still in the right spot for it and still running pretty solid laps, but they're starting to give up a little bit. 2:14.4 last time by for the two of them. And interesting implications. It's pretty rare that you see the top 10 of the race and you see 3 completely different fuel strategies going on. We see the tail end of Josh Lucas flying over the curbs into turn 1. Wire, Giebler, Lucas pretending they're in NASCARs as they use all the runoff there. And they'll be coming up on Lance Cameron here, and I'm sure that Lance would not make this more difficult for any of them, but he's going to be an obstacle if they catch him real fast in the middle of the bus stop. Luckily, he keeps the point in the right way, keeps it fast, and we'll see if they're able to clear him nicely on the way into the laces here.
Down the hill they all go here. We'll come to the toe of the boot.
Now Wire gets some position. Looks like Cameron's going to give him a fair amount of room. Oh, as I say it, gives him a lane, doesn't give him too much. Of course, the next person up the road for Wire and for Lance is Shane, so could be a thought that's in Lance's head. No freebies here. Oh, and actually, I've just noticed Hurley and Hall have taken their last stop, so we keep our eyes on this battle, but Hurley and Hall making their move. Last time on the pit lane for them, we gotta think.
That'd lead you to think as well that McCormick is going to need one more stop.
Yeah, Yeah. A few names in the top 10 that did that 30 seconds fuel. Wire having to force the issue up here on the inside of Cameron. Cameron really pinches him off, and that's going to give the run to Hurley there, but then Hurley has to lift. Sorry, Giebler. And Giebler has to lift, and now Wire's going to get it. And it looks like Lucas lifted out as well, decided he didn't want to piece that. Ooh, and Cameron gives a little punt to Wire. Ooh, and a big punt there from Giebler. Make sure that lapper's not going to be a problem anymore. Well, they all made it clear, and let's check out those pit stops. I'm seeing Hurley rolling out of the pits. Definitely took less fuel than Hall did, all things said and done. Was it enough fuel? That will be the key. An extra 7 seconds in between the two.
Yeah, very interesting. So those two are now obviously going to get to the end from here, 40 minutes to go.
But which one's calculated it right? Because they had identical stops the first time, and now Hall's gone and Hall usually is pretty bang on with this stuff. So he's gone and taken an extra 7 seconds. Like, I gotta think that's like 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of fuel. Our producer is less confident in Justin Hall's math abilities. He is from Florida, after all. But we'll have to see how that one pans out for sure. Wire, meanwhile, is still battling with Giebler right behind and Lucas chasing after him. They haven't managed to shake Lance just yet either, though I imagine that'll happen in the next few corners here. No more takers yet on the pit lane for that stop. The second stop yet. Butler now takes second place as those pit stops start to cycle through.
So the cumulative stop time then for John Hurley is 70 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, and Hall closer to 77. So you'd think that means that our one-stopper hopefuls aren't going to do that. Speaking of those guys, John Wilding, who was running behind Orlando there for a good section of the race, has now overtaken Harrow, going out of the last turn, I believe. He got that spot. And he's just started to drive away. We'll see if that gap remains or if Orlando will have something to say about it. Orlando deserves a little shout out too, because this has been a great race for him. Qualified 19th, and he's been consistently running in the top 10 through the second half of this race. New name, but I appreciate the look on that white purple car.
I think there's tape painted on.
Yeah, I like it. Seems very authentic. That's a Miata that's eating a cone at an autocross. That's what I think. I've never seen McCormick get in the pit lane. So McCormick now rolling down, and we'll have to see what he does. If there was any doubt about the math skills further back, McCormick is the guy who, when he came into the series, I think we saw him learn very quickly and the hard way that getting your fuel just right is a key part of winning in this series. And ever since he figured that out, McCormick has been one to beat at the front of the field. So we'll see what he decides in terms of fuel load. Looks like he's got time for all four to go on. Now, how long's the hold?
Yeah, so at 25 now, and it's still sitting there, and I'm gonna guess 35 or so, similar to Hurley, and yeah, that's pretty well what it is.
Okay.
He'll have some traffic now, though. He's gonna have a bit of traffic.
And quick traffic. Giebler was racing with him. Wire was racing with him at the front. And Josh Lucas has shown the pace to keep up with both of them. So if those guys don't get out of the way soon, and assuming they're brimmed up, they might have 7-10 laps more fuel. He's going to have to do some work. That Whammo livery car, though, he's not afraid to get in and get bold, especially when there's races on the line. So let's see.
Well, Giebler and Joshua Lucas side by side to the inner loop, a rolling roadblock.
Very effectively done. Oh, and they managed to keep it too wide through the bus stop.
Not quite what McCormick was looking to see on his outlap. Lucas does get past.
Yeah, you're like, oh, fresh tires, I gotta go. Guys, what are you doing? Oh, Mark McCormick. I've been on the other side of the radio in the pit lane for this one. It's a good thing we don't have that on the broadcast. Makes a move up the inside, though, Josh, that time. And critically, I think this is split Wire off enough that Wire might have a run away unless McCormick drags those two back up to Wire.
Yeah, you're looking at an 18 or 19 lap tyre difference here as well. So while it was not a perfect outlap for McCormick, he was always going to get his way through there.
Mm-hmm. Critically, if he doesn't close things down to Wire really quickly, I got to wonder if that'll be a problem, because Wire definitely has some pace in it. Woo! Justin Hall showing the importance of good tires there. He puts a 2:12.2 down last time through. And so does John Hurley, 2:12.4 last time by. So real quick laps on those fresh tires. Jordan Butler takes the pit lane this time by.
So total 70 seconds of fuel does seem like what we've got to expect.
Mm-hmm. Unless they've done some real good fuel saving. But I will note that, so that meant McCormick had to sit for an extra 12 to 15 seconds after the tires finished, I'd say, in 10 seconds. So in theory, Cameron and co should not have to stop for that extra time, which would mean to me that that'd be, it's gonna be close. I might be doing some Justin Hall math if I say any numbers out loud, so I'm gonna hold my breath. Wire now within range for Mark McCormick.
Yeah, again, McCormick's right in the sweet spot of these tyres this lap and the next as well. So would hope to get around pretty smoothly. And that's the thing, that first 5 laps or so in a new set of tyres are very choice. And that's something that, you know, Hall and McCormick are going to get to enjoy, and those who really, really filled at the first stop are going to be costing themselves time at the second stop if they take tyres there. So we might get to the end and find a very drastic difference in tyre life between Mark McCormick and others. In the final sector, these are some of the corners you expect to see tyre age have an effect.
Yeah, and one of the limitations of the sim is that you change tires side by side. You can't jack up the front of the car and do both the fronts if that's what you wanted to do. So, if anything, you know, we might see left sides only on Shane Cameron, but that's definitely not going to be what Tim Wire is benefiting from here, as he just drives around Tim Wire like he's standing still. So much more grip.
10th short of his own personal best lap that time as well from McCormick, so a slightly cooler track, and that is the sweet spot of the new tyres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even after that cloud kind of went away, the track hasn't warmed back up, still in that 108 range, so things are getting a little bit faster the longer this race goes on. This will be an awkward overtake, potentially. Persley ran it real deep for him. Ooh, and McCormick has to give up some time. Brings Wire back into the picture. Now, if you're Wire, I'm not sure if you're hoping for much more than a good draft, but ooh, definitely hoping that Percy doesn't make it that tough on you. And Wire has to give up some ground there to hold up. Luckily for him, though, he still managed to hold that gap. Giebler now losing the spot to Lucas, and the two of them taking up their positions as they stood on the starting grid, 4th and 5th place. They've had a pretty solid battle going on for a few laps now. And they'll get their chance to deal with the lap traffic that we're seeing Wire dealing with ahead. Pursley racing everyone, keeping it fair.
There you have it. I'm looking for then who's going to be our next round of pit stop callers, and it's going to be those drivers who took just a little more than 35 seconds of fuel. So Lucas, I think, is going to pit shortly.
I think Cameron's got another 8 or 9 laps, depending on what kind of fuel save he's doing. Which would put him... be interesting. It'd be interesting to see where that puts him relative to Hurley and Hall, who've already kind of taken the best out of their tires, it seems like, and they're kind of starting to revert to those low 213s. Percy's going to have another look at Wire here. Oh no, big push for Wire. That'll be a relief. Wire makes the most of it, eating up the curves through the bus stop there. Might need to go Google the MX-5s going through the bus stop here in real life. See if anyone's as brave as our ChampCar drivers here.
No one's braver than ChampCar drivers, Devin.
Experience would agree.
And at a certain extreme, there is no difference between bravery and stupidity.
Yeah, certainly for an outside observer. So, where are you looking right now?
At my timing screen, who's pitted twice, who's only pitted once, and who's catching who. So your drivers who I reckon are good to go to the end is Mark McCormick in 2nd, John Hurley in 7th, Justin Hall in 8th, Jordan Butler in 9th, and John Wilding in 11th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm trying to do some math. I think that Cameron will come out somewhere between Hall and Butler after his eventual stop. Wire, I gotta think, with his stop, is going to come out closer to the Muleman Wilding crowd.
You're not going to have to wait long to find out. Big
There
rush
we
up lane here with Tim Wire, Ian Giebler, and Joshua Lucas.
He said, "I'll show ya."
So I'm watching all of them, and I'm watching for tire jacks here. 26 minutes left to go in this race, 13 laps. And I am only seeing jacks for Giebler? No.
And for Wire.
And for Wire. So I think it's Lucas is the only one not taking tires right here. Left side's from those behind, but I did not see the right-hand side.
Quick out though. So yeah, looks like just lefts there for Wire. No, I think Wire had left and right. Okay, so lefts only is what I'm hearing. Eyes must have deceived me. But he's getting away. And Lucas and Giebler, Lucas took no tires, comes out at exactly the same time as Giebler, and they're nose to tail going up the S's.
Yeah, so then look for the pace difference here. They've got John Wilding at speed right up behind them as well. So he's closing in on this.
Yeah, so as predicted, he'll be kind of in that battle. Okay. So that was a total of about a minute on the pit lane again. Minute and a half, I guess. No, a minute for Giebler and Lucas. Wire was able to shave about 6 or 7 seconds off that, going with a little bit less fuel. The Wilding drives right past Josh Lucas. Don't know if Lucas is just suffering from the tires being old because he didn't take fresh ones. Would seem
I think
likely
that's what
to
it
me.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, any pit stop where you just load a bunch more fuel into the car and then leave on the same set of tires, you suddenly realize, how scuffed those tires might be.
Mm-hmm. We had a buddy run a few right down to the cords last weekend, so doing some racing, so easy enough to do. And you don't get the feedback of cords slapping the inside of the fender in sim like you do in real life.
So what's going on for Lucas here? Back on the pit lane again. Did he speed on the exit? Has he decided he really wants a set of tires?
Hard to say. I didn't see an obvious speeding penalty coming off the pit lane, but hard to know.
Well, he was kind of side by side with Giebler and then ended up nose in front. So time's about to tell.
Yeah, he did seem to gain a bit of an advantage on the exit there. And that might explain his choice not to race with some of the guys on the outlap there. "16 seconds, though. That doesn't quite add up." Apologies for your eardrums there, folks.
So Shane Cameron is going to pit with 11 laps to go. This is going to see McCormick come through into the lead of the race now, and Cameron's not even in his box yet.
Yeah.
What is Shane Cameron going to do?
Cameron made it close at the line, but McCormick was able to take it away. Yeah, so let's see if Cameron can make this long stop, short stop strategy work a little better than some of the other guys have so far. Orlando
Left side.
in 4th place.
And away he goes. So 13 seconds for Shane Cameron, but he is going to be behind Hurley. He is going to be behind Justin Hall.
Both of those guys, though, critically have kind of taken all the good off their tires so far. And he slots in behind Hall and Hurley. Hurley's gotten a little breakaway here from Hall at some point. Now, I have had some questionable experiences doing one-side tires only, especially on a real hot day. I'm curious to know how that car is going to be handling in the sort of transition stuff here. You don't really get a lot of time to suss it out before you're thrown into the bus stop here. Shane has shown some real good pace to the bus stop. He definitely took it easy that time. The real advantage will be these left sides through here.
Well, you were talking about stock cars on road courses earlier, as there's nothing more stock car experience than a car that's very happy to turn to one side and not to the other.
Mm-hmm. Does make sense. Have to go to Lime Rock if you want to do that in a sports car. As things calm down a bit for Hall and sorry, who were falling there for Cameron. I'm thinking that the battle between Giebler and Wilding is due to get hot.
Yeah, so I think McCormick's got that lead pretty comfortably right now. Justin Hall has been closing up on John Hurley after the longer stop that Hall had last time, but now you inject Shane Cameron into this in the battle for the podium, and almost everyone has made their final stop in his field to get to the end. The exceptions would be Lee Muehlman currently running in 7th, and Charles Kowalczyk currently running in 12th. What is this asymmetric tires and difference going to look like here between Hall and Cameron? I think Cameron's definitely got the pace right here, but that advantage will only last a couple laps, I think.
Yeah, that was a pretty sweet line into turn number 1. He's definitely benefiting in the left hand or in the right-handers rather from those tires. He prefers to run it real wide out to the wall there. He kind of gets tight as he goes through there every time. I've noticed that from Cameron. It'd be a clincher if you were in the real car. So hard to spot your apexes when you're this following car.
Yeah, good to sit in on a meeting of Curbaholics Anonymous that time through.
Yeah, Cameron, no fear. He dialed in a couple extra clicks of ride height before the race. Of course, it's a fixed setup series, so he didn't, but he's got no fear going over those curves.
I think the longer this goes on, the closer it sits to Hall to be able to hold on to it, because look at that drive through a right-hander for Shane Cameron. He just looked like he was driving a different car.
And Hall tries to be the last breaker. Doesn't pan out this time. Cameron sticks it down the inside. Let's see if he can drive away. Easy to catch up, hard to pass, but very easy to follow if you've got anything left on those tires. And that might be the move here for Hall, is kind of wait until you get parity. Both sets of tires, both cars just hot and beat up. You might have something for him in the last 15 minutes of this race.
So Shane Cameron through into 3rd, 6 seconds to John Hurley in 2nd. How much is he going to be able to take out of that with 9 laps to go? He's going to need 3/4 of a second per lap.
He hasn't had that last time by, but of course he was battling last time by, so that and Hurley's tires kind of starting to go off the cliff might be a big difference maker for him. Hall, it looks like, has almost over raced those tires, definitely suffering relative to Hurley's pace in the recent laps. And Hurley is going to have to deal with a couple more lapped cars while Cameron is catching up to him as well. Of course, Cameron will have to as well at some point, but can be a factor. Another tight battle is going to be that one between Giebler and Wilding for 8th and 9th place. Wilding's got a bit of a run on Giebler coming up through the S's this time. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to make a move or if he's more comfortable staying behind. It looks like he's dropping out, slingshotting by. And we'll see, is Giebler going to let him have it? Looks like he might. Oh, not quite. It's going to still look up the inside, but no real serious move made there, and puts Wilding off the line a little bit on the second half of the corner. Oh, and then Wilding disappears. Some connection issues there by the looks of things. Rejoins the track a little bit up the road though. Real smart move there from the Sim. Wish you could make other drivers just disappear sometimes when you're out on the ChampCar track, especially driving around in the Miata. Everyone passing you on the straightaways before you catch them in the corners.
John Hurley crosses the start-finish line and matches his lap time from last lap at 2:13.3. Shane Cameron, who has been released, manages a 2:12.9, so closing that up a little bit, not as much as you would have hoped for, and Justin Hall stays right with his draft there.
This will be a critical draft up the hill for Cameron, I gotta think, chasing this lapper here. That's Aaron Thorpe in that green and yellow car. But Cameron will be hoping that he can get clear by the bus stop, because like I've mentioned a few times, he's really been making good use of that corner for lap time here. And if he has to give it up, it's to be a little bit painful. Not quite as full send as usual. Ooh, but he manages to make it stick and make that pass pretty easily. He gets a little bit of help even there from Aaron, tapped on the brakes a little bit on the entry.
Less than conventional way to get around, but it worked, and plenty of rotation for Cameron as he eats up those curbs. Paul looking like he's going to get through at the laces as well.
And critically, that 6-second gap is now down to 4.5.
Yeah, I think the run through turn 1 on this lap for John Hurley wasn't great, as he got around Patrick Pursley, which will be the next target for Shane Cameron and Justin Hall. And you know, every little bit of speed off turn number 1, it just, you know, compounds all the way up those S's for a long time, and that's, you know, a quarter of the lap around here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And all of the top 10 or so are starting to have to deal with some pretty significant lap traffic. It's kind of happening, all kicking off right now. Tim Wyer's battling too wide with some lappers. Lance Cameron there. Got, actually, that's a reprise for those two. We're seeing Justin Hall come scooping by the camera, real close on the exit onto the front straightaway there. And now Cameron, looking forward, he'll be seeing that baby blue car, Patrick Pursley, up ahead. And Pursley has not made it easy for guys to get by him. Fair enough, he's done it for everyone. But he's definitely stuck as close as he can to him, trying to get as much draft benefit as he can for his own race. And lead shot here, looking back on Shane as he comes in to the bus stop. And Shane takes that real early turn in again, hooks the tire on the grass on the left side, and makes it rotate as he gets into the outer loop. Still making it tough on Hall to keep up with him. Hall back nearly to a second behind.
Yeah, Cameron managed to take 1.2 seconds out of John Hurley last lap around for some of the reasons that we talked about, and if he keeps that up, by the end of this race in 12 minutes, he'll be right there, battling for second. Justin Hall be hoping he can just hang on to the slipstream of Cameron here, but it doesn't seem like it's working at this minute. It's all the critical juncture here is, how does Cameron get around Pursley?
Yeah, I think that's the question we're all wondering right now.
Very last round of pit stops, so we've had Lee Muehlman on this lap and Charles Kowalczyk just leaving as well. So those guys absolutely brimmed it at the first stop, have gone as deep as they can, but come up a couple laps short.
Close call, but it would have been tough to get that extra 6 laps, I gotta think. I'm watching John Wilding and Ian Giebler. These two are starting to heat up things between the two of them. Wilding now on the outside as they go down the short chute towards 8, and he's going to give that line. Doesn't look like he challenged too hard, Ian Giebler, that time. But that's Giebler taking the spot from Wilding. I gotta wonder if he'll have something for him here a little bit later on in the race.
Now, we saw Giebler take left sides. Don't know what Wilding did, but that could be key amongst the differences here between 7th and 8th. Shane Cameron's gotten past Pursley, I think, on the run up the hill and is now ahead.
Yeah, and then uses his patented move through the bus stop there to make a big gap. No chances for Pursley to mess with him. And he continues on tracking down 3.2 seconds on the relative between him and Hurley. It's all to play for. Whether you're Justin, whether you're Shane, whether you're John up ahead. Justin makes quick work of Pursley there as well.
Sent it down the inside of the laces and then maybe washed out a little bit. But once you get in there and try to claim the position, it would be a little unsporting for the other driver to defend it too hard.
Wonder if Hurley's having to think about some fuel saving maybe. Could be a factor here as well. He was 0.7 off of Shane Cameron last time by.
Well, Cameron's last stop was limited by how long the left sides took, not how long the fuel drop took. So, yeah, Cameron's fuel looked pretty similar to Hurley. We'll see this lap for Hurley 13.3 and for Shane Cameron 12.8.
Yeah, and that's with the overtake on Pursley. So he did get some help on the draft, but that was a heck of a lap from him. He just keep taking a half second out of lap though if he wants to get there with only 5 to go. Might not even be enough, but you got to think it'll be more than that if he gets into the draft. It'll be tight stuff. Keebler and Wilding have been continuing on their little battle. Keebler sneaking away ahead of Wilding, but I think we're kind of in one of those yo-yo phases where Wilding drops back a bit, things cool off, and we'll see which one has it in a few laps here. Imagine Wilding's going to get a real nice run up through the S's. Probably not enough to get alongside, but this is a little later in the race. He might keep his foot buried in it, even if things are a little bleak. See that relative ticking down. Single file through the bus stop, hopping curbs, both in pretty similar lines. Definitely leaving a little bit on the table relative to some of the guys up front. But Wilding is well and truly on Ian Giebler's bumper now.
And it just looks like Wilding's been a little tidier through the outer loop and then through the laces there. You mentioned how similar they were through the bus stop, but a few of these places where the car doesn't quite want to get to the apex, Wilding is convincing it to. Giebler was just a foot wide.
Cameron's had a bad one that time by only matching John Hurley ahead. So we continue on with Giebler and Wilding. Closest cars in the top 10 right now. The two of them will be dealing with, that looks like Lance Cameron up ahead. Coming into the closing laps here though. There's got to be said. Go ahead.
I start to think you want to be, when you come to that white flag, you want to be the second car here. You want to be close, really close, but I don't think I'd want to be the car up front when we came to that white flag and then the long run up through the S's.
It's curious. I've been kind of trying to see if Wilding's trying to time that run a little bit and see, hey, do I need to be 0.8 seconds back? Do I need to be 0.6 seconds back? And this time it looks like it's 0.7 seconds at the bottom of the hill, and we'll see what that turns into by the time we get to the top of the hill.
Reckon you want to be 0.5 back. Just a little friendly hello there before the braking for the bus stop.
Don't forget about me. Love to see it. The secret bump drafting is the best kind of bump drafting, you know?
Yeah, I think this deep in the race, you really just start thinking about your positioning for that final lap. You're not going to get around and get clear, or you shouldn't bank on that being a possibility. I think it's all about that final lap in the battle between these two, and potentially Cameron and Hall, because Hall's back to the slipstream. But Wilding's going to have a look down the inside of Giebler here, towards the heel of the boot. Maybe the traffic could help Wilding here.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I was kind of thinking that if Wilding can get ahead and use this traffic as a pick, he might be able to, you know, break things up with Ian Giebler a little bit and give him just enough breathing room to get to the end. Three to go at the line this time. It'll be close for them. And Hurley has put his foot back to the floor and is matching Cameron lap for lap these last two laps. Really kind of putting an end to the dreams of Cameron for that second place on the grid, but he might have his hands full with Justin Hall behind, as those two are neck and neck as well for the last step in the podium.
I've also just seen Ian Giebler return the hello to the rear bumper of John Wilding. So it's 3.5 minutes left. It's 3 laps to go for everyone on the lead lap.
Oh, this lap is going to be so crucial. Which way does he go? What does he give you? Looks like that's what he gave you. He's giving them room to race side by side. Let's see if he gives it to him all the way into the bus stop. Ooh, careful. Oh, boy. Oh, and that was an awkward corner for Wilding. And Giebler, Giebler's gotten it all kinds out of shape. Tough to do too wide at the best of times, and real tough when it's chasing the leader. Chasing the guy ahead and got that lap car on the inside. You almost can't get it far enough back.
Sure gave Lance Cameron a bit of a show, and as Giebler picks himself up, dusts himself off, he's got Andrew Kosick right behind him. Company now as well. Very unconventional strategy for Kosick. Very early stop, I think, from some damage. Ran long from there. Last pitted 20 laps ago, where he took on board a handful of fuel and new tyres. So still, the tyres should be better for Giebler than Kosick here.
I'm watching the lead, second, that's his third and fourth. Cameron has just millimeters between him and Justin Hall as they go through turn number 1 and turn up the S's here. Got to think that Cameron's got the run if he wants it this time, but they're looking at one more to go at the line. This isn't the white flag yet.
Oh, there's not a car width there, Justin Hall. No. Looking to get to the right-hand side, and I don't think that was ever on. Very, very close moment against the Armco. Narrow part of the track up through the S's.
Yeah, that was a good
Just
reaction.
wait it out here, son, and try to make that same run next lap on the final lap.
Well, and I was going to say, Cameron has always run it wide out to the Armco there, and you know, whether that's the fastest line or just coincidence, he manages to follow his usual line and slam the door shut on the guy behind. So convenient driving there. Creates a bit of a gap because Hall definitely had to tap on the brakes pretty hard going up the hill.
Less than a minute on the clock. Mark McCormick into the final sector of the lap. The white flag will be waiting for him. One of our handful of little 2-hour mini enduros in this season of the ChampCar iRacing series.
And McCormick will be looking to add that third trophy to his trophy case at the end of this one.
So he had to be very patient in the opening stint of this race. He had a big train in behind him, eventually tried to shake him.
Oh,
first round of pit stops.
Paul has just overtaken Cameron. I think Cameron might be out of fuel. Because Cameron is slow, and heading to the pit lane. Oh, heartbreak for him. Paul's going to take that white flag uncontested in third place.
He'll be kicking himself for that one because the last pit stop was limited by the tyres. He could have taken more fuel. And now this will be a very quick splash, but it's not a quick run down the pit lane. We've established that. Costs you about 30 seconds or so. Not only has he lost out in his battle to Justin Hall, but Jordan Butler has gotten through. Tim Wire is a little bit too far back on that one, I think. On the final lap of the race, well, McCormick unchallenged to the white flag. Shane Cameron has to pit for a splash of fuel coming to the white flag.
Yeah, Hurley having to navigate some lap traffic, but he makes his way around Charles Kowalczyk pretty well. The only other battle I think left for watching would be that one between Ian Giebler and Andrew Kosick.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Giebler has to get around Lance Cameron again this time. I've been taking plenty of the first curb. Giebler once again thinking about getting around the outside of Lance Cameron, be hoping that he breaks a little earlier this time around.
Well, you hope so if he's that far up the inside. Oh, it doesn't look like a sure thing, though. Giebler did have to lift, it sounded like, too. Maybe he's fuel saving a little bit.
And the final corner now for Mark McCormick, though. 53, soon to be 54 laps in this race at Watkins Glen. A slipstream fest early on. Mark McCormick breaks clear and he takes another win in 2022 for the ChampCar iRacing Series, the defending champion now with wins across multiple cars.
Yeah, real good stuff there. Hurley coming across the line as well for second. And it looks like Justin Hall will be following him in for third.
Still undecided back here between Ian Giebler and Andrew Kosick, though. Kosick looking for everything he can get. Giebler now going to have to look down the inside of Lance Cameron.
Cameron makes a little defensive move, not a big one.
Giebler through, but it balks Kosick a little bit, and that might just let Giebler hold on to 8th place here. Kosick's going to throw it down the inside there with a little bit of reckless abandon, but 2 corners left. I think 8th place is gone.
Yeah, shame for Kosick there, but I think all is fair here. Haven't seen anything unreasonable. You do wish the lapper would get out of the way on the last lap. It's not for the podium though. So.
Yeah, so they're all going to come across the checkered flag, and Orlando Herald started catching it, but not enough towards the end. I don't see anything wrong with what Lance Cameron's done in this sector, but defending the inside and not rolling out of the throttle to the bus stop as many times as he did leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I'm not sure you should be defending like that.
Yeah, shame about how that went for Giebler too, but no, it was an excellent race, all things considered. We see Muleman coming out of the last corner. Going to be one of our final finishers on the lead lap, gotta think, along with Josh Lucas, who will be the last one to cross the line. And Earl can finally stop waving that arm around. It's going to be okay.
Let's run down the finishing order then. Your race winner by 22 seconds, Mark McCormick. John Hurley holds on to a second place, and I'm sure he's pretty pleased with. Justin Hall in third, not able to catch him, not able to work with Shane Cameron, who had to stop late. That allowed Jordan Butler up into 4th and also allowed Tim Wire through into 5th. Close, actually, between Cameron and Wilding right at the end there, but Shane Cameron holds on to a 6th place. New pole sitter finished in 7th. We were watching on the final lap this three-way tussle with a bit of traffic between Giebler, Kosick, and Herrell. Giebler held on 8th. Kosick couldn't get through for 9th, but Herrell was just a little bit too far back to get into that on the final lap as well, and that rounds out the top 10. Then Lee Moorman in 11th, the same position as where he started. Josh Lucas was the last car on the lead lap in 12th. David Warden just off 1 lap from Kowalczyk, Persley, Michael Thorne, Aaron Thorpe, Donovan Bort, Alan Wells, Jared Cubitt, Brandon Marshall, and it looks like Lance Cameron will be the last classified finisher. Ben Sandberg just 25 laps completed to the leaders 54.
Great race out there today, and looks like they're starting to form up outside the broadcast booth here.
It's the popular place to be, and of course, just touching on that point there, that to be counted as having completed a round, to get one step closer to having your name in the hat for one of those very, very generous prizes that is the ChampCar credits for the participation trophy. You've got to complete half of the race leaders' laps or more. Let's go then to our podium, and we can grab defending champion and race winner Mark McCormick. Slipstream fest early on there, and then eventually you started weaving on the pit straight and some other places, just trying to break away. How'd the opening phase of the race compare to at the end?
Yeah, the first part was a lot of fun. It's always fun around here, especially in cars like this, because you can kind of communicate with the other drivers and do some bump drafting, which the level 1, I think they're level 1 racing guys wanted to bump draft a little bit, and that was working pretty good. But once I had maybe 0.7 or something like that of a lead, I figured maybe let me try to go ahead and break the rubber band a little bit.
And I guess one of the points of these 2-hour races is the strategy and the 2-stop strategy. And you and some others sort of went for that, cut the fuel drop into 2 equal portions, and that looked like a pretty successful strategy. How noticeable is the weight of the fuel in this car?
Oh, it's not too bad, because when the tires are fresh, that's the main thing. And then after maybe 3 or 4 laps, they really go away, especially when it was hotter in the beginning of the race. And the weight of the fuel isn't a huge deal. I decided to split up the fuel to even on both stops, because I wasn't sure what I could get away with as far as being able to take all 4 tires both times. I didn't want to take 30 liters and then only take 10 on the second stop and not have enough time for tires, or lose time that way.
Well, another win for you, a good points haul. How do you feel then?
That part feels good, but my body doesn't. This rig is killing me, man.
Well, then you'll be thankful that we are still 2 months away from the next 2-hour race in this championship.
Yeah, maybe I'll be on vacation for that round. Thanks, guys, for putting all this on. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Race winner Mark McCormick there. And Devon, how about you speak to our second place man? You've gone and grabbed him already.
Yeah, I've just found John Hurley here. John was a busy race there in the first half, and then it looked like fuel strategy became kind of the name of the game in the second half.
Well, nobody told me it was a 2-hour race. I don't think I would have signed up, but so yeah, I got started, and I'm like, oh, we got to go for a while, and did try to play a little game with the tires, and was able to save fuel at the beginning. I think that's how I ended up with second.
Yeah, there was a few times early on in the race where it looked like they might almost drop you off the back of the pack, but it looks like you were able to find a little bit of pace there and catch right up.
Yeah, I was, I was trying to just stay back there, but then a couple times I stayed back there a little too far, and the gap got a little bit bigger. And um, but I think they slowed up just as much as maybe I sped up a little bit. I think they were slowing each other up a little bit, and then I don't know. I guess the pit stops are coming up, and everybody just kind of started going for it. And Mark got away, and I just tried not to hit anybody too hard.
And a quiet second half of the race. We didn't see a ton of you out there. Any highlights from that period? It looked like Shane was chasing you down towards the end.
Yeah, towards the middle stint, Justin got back behind me. I tapped the wall coming out of the boot, and it slowed me up a little bit, probably about 0.3 per lap, and then I knew I had a bit of a fuel advantage on Justin, and I didn't know what Shane was going to be doing, and he was coming, but it looks like he ran out of fuel.
Well, great race out there today. Real impressive performance. I bet you got to be pleased with that podium. Anyone you need to thank today?
It's a huge ass team, and obviously ChampCar for putting on the event. And yeah, I had a great time, and nice to get second. I had nothing for Mark, but second, I'll take that. And this group of guys, and the pace they're running nowadays, the second is pretty good. I'll take it.
Great job, buddy. Till the next one.
Yeah, we'll see it.
Haynes, you had any luck finding Justin?
He's always just a call away, and a third place man joins us. Back and forth with Shane at the end there, Justin, and it came down to the fuel mileage.
Yeah. So kind of unfortunate for Shane. I was looking forward to actually having a battle there. I saw he was pushing like hell. So yeah, it was still a lot of fun though.
Noticeable split between qualifying pace and race pace today, not just for you, but some other drivers in the field as well. Do you put that down to anything?
Yeah, not reading the pre-race and knowing it's a 2-hour race that has qualifying starting at 7:30. So, yeah.
All we ever say is forum.champcar.org, Devon.
No, I'm just enjoying how we managed to sneak up on everyone with this one today.
Apparently so, but what about that slipstream pack early, Justin? The top 7 got away because of qualifying. You struggled to be a part of it. Did you think a podium was getting away from you at that point, or did you know a couple stops to go can still work some magic here?
Yeah, I was not sure what I was going to do because like you said, once the two guys in front of me, they're kind of held me up and they lost the draft train, so I kind of just figured I'm going to have to push like hell and then just run 2 stops with a lower fuel to just try to make up some of the difference, and didn't really expect it to be a podium, but I'm very happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, I'm sure. Any ambitions for Watkins Glen in future?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely need to go out there one of these times. Just yeah, not sure when. Maybe next year. Definitely on the bucket list though.
A little bit far away from Florida, but then I can use that excuse for every damn track.
Except for Sebring and Daytona, right?
Those are pretty far away from me too as well. Congrats on the podium there, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you for next round at Montreal.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys then.
Well, Devin, we head to Canada for the next round in, my goodness, is that 2 weeks' time? That is 2 weeks' time at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the Ford Mustang FR500S. What is, I would say effectively, literally a street circuit, and our most powerful car for this calendar.
And the most fun car on the calendar, I gotta say. Everyone, I think, in this series has a great shot at that one. A lot of skill ceiling in that car, and really excited to see how it handles the real tight chicanes of that Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, precisely. So back to the 1 hour race, and that's going to be on June 8th. Head to forum.champcar.org if you want to come racing with us. It's got all the information, the schedule, etc., etc. And of course, 4 cars in rotation this calendar. We've had the Mazda Miata NC today. It's a Ford Mustang next round. Volkswagen Jetta gets a run at round 9 at Laguna Seca, but we will have I guess a little bit of a summer break between the championship race next on June 8th, and then it's July 13th before we return again. And then July the 27th is the 2 hour race at VIR Full. And also the Pontiac Solstice, some will be relieved to know, is parked in the garage until mid-Ohio, August 31st. So make sure you head to forum.champcar.org, find all the information, and congratulations go to our podium again today, Mark McCormick, John Hurley, and Justin Hall. That's going to be all from us here at HJBC. Myself, David Haynes, Devin Peters with me, and Michael Derby producing. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube or wherever you're watching, because we're going to have coverage of every round through to the championship finale, round 16, November 9th at Sebring. From Watkins, Glen, though, bye-bye.